Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be reviewing the entire Halloween Rare Machine collab. Now, this collab is obviously to celebrate Halloween and all its spookiness and festivities by dressing up your favorite characters in various Halloween costumes to make them more spooky. Now, a lot of these characters are simple, actually, recolorations of existing monsters, and this means that they have new viability because they have either new typings, new coloring, and possibly slightly different actives. Now, with, I guess, the theme being Halloween, I hope that the only scary thing you do encounter is a mischievously dressed up child and not next month's visa statement after rolling lots in the collab. So, without further ado, this is the overview of the Rare Machine. So, there are three 8-star monsters, a single 7-star, the Sonya, 5 6-stars, 2 5-stars, and finally 5 4-stars or silver rolls. So I'm just going to be discussing each of them as a brief overview. It's obviously best to read the article in full because I'm not going to read directly from the article, and you'll pick up more information from there as opposed to just my summary that you're going to hear. So the first 8-star roll is Dark Shan Mei, and this is perhaps causing the most hype and excitement because the fire equivalent to Shan Mei, when she was released, basically shook up the entire meta. At the time, she was basically one of the, possibly the hardest hitting and one of the most durable leaders in the game. So she basically could do everything that all the other leaders could, but better. She was just so much stronger. Unfortunately, that reign was relatively short-lived because the Heart Cross meta came out, and a 2.25 times health multiplier is not that significant because A, you're vulnerable to binds, and B, you can't survive gravity-based attacks. So Heart Crosses do outclass Shan Mei. However, Dark Shan Mei is still very powerful. Don't get me wrong, just because she's not necessarily listed on various Japan tier lists, it's because she just can't compete with the Heart Cross meta. That's really all it is. And if you exclude that, she's still one of the strongest leaders available. Furthermore, she can still form her system. She has a bigger subpool than the fire equivalent, and Dark is just a naturally stronger color due to less type resistancing. So, Dark Shan Mei, she randomly spawns 6 heart orbs from non-dark orbs, as well as providing a single turn of haste on a 7-turn cooldown. And that means you're actually able to form a system if you use basically one 7-turn active every single turn. Now, you have to actually use Dark Devils, and unlike the fire equivalent, you have a huge subpool to draw upon. You probably have a bunch of Dark Devils lying around already, so you don't have to jump through hurdles, purchase numerous duplicates of her to actually form a team. So this is great. She's going to be an accessible 2.25 times health, 81 times attack row-based leader. So she's got a lot of power and a lot of viability still, and I think she's a great role. You can also purchase her for 500,000 monster points. Whether that's worthwhile or not, I'm going to actually discuss in a future article because I don't want to spend 20 minutes just talking about her when I'm reviewing the entire Rare Machine collab. So obviously stay tuned for that. Probably a couple days it'll come out, but it's going to be worth the wait. Let's put it that way. But overall, she does have a lot more subs available because she does have Pandora's, she has Grimory, and she has Akachi. So there's a lot of power in these Dark Devils, as well as having potential board changer from Cecile, who can spawn to Hearts and Dark. Of course, you will have to rely on skill inheritance still, but at least you actually have more powerful subs you can use without relying only on skill inheritance. Next up is Sonya Gran, and Sonya Gran is possibly an unusual 8-star role because she is a farmable monster after all. However, she's completely different than her farmable equivalent because she's actually a Sharius Roots. She's basically a Sharius Roots with a different active and a slightly tweaked leader skill. So her Sonya Gran's active is 2 times time to move orbs for 2 turns, so it overrides time debuffs, as well as providing 2 times attack for dragon types for 2 turns. Now, her leader skill is 2 times attack when matching any 4 elements, and you get a maximum 7 times of all 6 elements. In addition, you also give 1.5 times health and attack for dragon type monsters, so dual Sonya Grans actually form a 2.25 times health, 110.25 times attack team. And you should really just pair with a Sharius Roots in all honesty because the health has diminishing returns in co-op, and dragons already have naturally high health. So with a Sharius Roots, you're actually 1.5 times health, same 110 times attack, and 1.5 times recovery for a Rainbow Dragon team. So Sonya Grand's and Sherry's roots, they have the exact same team building requirements because they cover the same light-dark elements. So this is actually a great option because a lot of players could roll Sonya Grand and right away start using a top-tier leader. And it's great because you don't have to evolve and whatnot, basically Sonya Grand. And I believe her skillet materials should be in the dungeon, so it's easy to acquire. So it's just easier all around as a general rule when you roll collab monsters. And the thing is, with Sonya Grand, it's actually a little weaker than Sherry's Roots. Like, you really don't need the time extend. You should have enough time extend, and you don't really need the damage enhance unless you're playing like Annihilation level content, so like Machine, Hera, so on and so forth. You don't really need to have that damage enhance. And that's why dual Sherry's Roots will be stronger, because dual Sherry's Roots, you actually have 2 board changers, and it's the board changer that's most important. If you don't have a good board, you can't activate. Sherry's Roots guarantees an activatable board, so that's actually more desirable than a damage enhance. And plus, the damage enhance is a 15-turn cooldown. Like, that's incredibly long. Like, you have to wait so long, and it's not that great, so you can't really inherit something on top of Sonya Grand, so it's just problematic overall. And if you're playing lots of co-op, the health multiplier is not necessary, because you should already be able to survive a Divine Queen Hera preemptive, and after that, anything else is probably too strong anyways. You should not be surviving. So, she is strong, but it's a little weaker than dual Sherry's Roots. And, like, I guess that is good in a way, because players don't have to, like, throw stones at the machine until they get a better leader, but it's just, it's still good, but just not as nice. But I would use it if I got it. I'd be happy. So hopefully you are lucky enough to roll her. Because, unfortunately, the last 8-star monster from the Halloween machine, whoops, is Callie. And it's actually like Callie, but reskinned to dark. And she has the exact same awakenings and lower multiplier leader skill. So she actually grants like 1.69 times health and recovery for gods and devils, along with 42 times attack. And 42 times attack on a rainbow leader is low. Like, Sherry's Roots or Sonya Grand is 110 times by comparison. Like, why? Like, why is she still an 8-star? Why has she not been buffed? Like, she's just lackluster. And furthermore, you can't really use her as a sub on many teams because rainbow teams that are high-end require hearts to activate, and like Callie's active does not spawn hearts. So she's not good as a sub, not good as a leader. It's just an awkward 8-star. So if you roll her, you're just going to feel sad because you could have got Sonya Grand or Shan Mei. Like, they're equally rare. And she's also available for purchase. Do not purchase her. So, one sec. I like tea on a cold day. It's also very British of me. So, in the 7-star roll section, we have basically a blue Sonya reskinned to dark. And she has the same stats and the same amazing base health, as well as the older awakenings, because it hasn't been updated to get the new awakenings, which feels sad because blue Sonya got a new evolution of more awakenings, more power. This Sonya does not. Like, she still has like only 6 awakenings, so it's going to feel a bit lackluster for a 7-star roll. And the active is still the same water-dark formation, however you do get 2 turns of haste. And that haste can be valuable because it allows you to obviously hasten up the rest of your team. But the problem is, this Sonya is not a good leader because you have obviously crazy base health but no recovery. And the main power of blue Sonya was the fact that you could form a high health team because physical dragons had naturally high health, and you had a 6.25 times recovery, so you just healed like crazy. And this Sonya just gives a health multiplier as well as a low, like a same damage multiplier with combos. So it's harder to activate because you need 6 combos with Rose, and you get health and not recovery. So you're going to have a gigantic health pool, but you'll never be able to recover because physical dragon cards have such lackluster health and such lackluster recovery. So you're going to have a huge health pool, but you get hit, and you're just going to be like, oh, that's nice, I can't really heal. So there's not much value in it, so it's not a good leader, so you have to be using her as a sub or as an inheritance. But unfortunately, she has no god, no god, no devil typing, or balance, so she can't be used on basically any high-end team as a sub, so that's kind of out of the question. And as an inheritance, it's strong for water and dark teams, but obviously the cooldown is long, as well as not forming hearts in a heart cross meta, so it's just an outdated card, and it just feels sad because I really do like blue Sonya. And there's only actually one 7-star in this whole collab. So, helps my throat. Next up, we have the cute Karen. Now, this Karen is actually striking the thriller pose. Can you help me do the thriller pose?
No.
She can't help me do the thriller pose, but like it's thriller, thriller night. Something I'm not gonna sing because it's gonna embarrass myself. But she's striking the thriller pose with all the other Chinese celestials. So this is actually quite spectacular. People like this. Like it's one of the most iconic and exciting artworks they've actually released. Like it's pretty miraculous. Like I'm just gonna scroll up really quick, and you can see, whoops, right here. Like look at that. Look at that dancing, that thriller dance. Like all the Celestials are doing it. Like I like it. I like Karen. I like the dance. Like you could just roll this and be happy because you have amazing artwork. But I'm obviously gonna like analyze the actual card itself because you know that's also what I do. So she actually comes in either a water dark or a dark water form, and you basically just invert the awakening. So the water becomes dark, the dark becomes water, based on what her primary color is. So she has a lot of orb enhances, which is nice because it basically guarantees every single orb that comes down will come enhanced. However, there's no skill lock resist, so you have to be careful, and she doesn't spawn hard orbs, nor does she have haste. So her board change has less value now. You can't use her on a lot of teams, and at the moment, the God typing really kind of restricts her to be used on either basically that Sonya team, which you shouldn't be using, or a Yomi Dragon. And Yomi Dragon is still a reasonable leader. She might get a huge buff in the future with a new evolution, and when this is basically the same as Christmas Karen, or Christmas Haku, but prettier, in my opinion, because it's Karen. So basically that's the main use right now, would be on like Yomi Dragon and Woken Yomi teams. But they're obviously not top tier at the moment, but still valuable. So that's just kind of the main usage for Karen at this exact time. You can use her as an inheritance, but not as strong because there's no haste component, so it's just going to feel a bit blah. No hard orbs mean you can't use in the heart cross meta, so it's like blah. So Karen is powerful, but it just doesn't have a good home for her at the moment. Maybe Yomi Dragon will change things in the future. Next up is Raziel, if I'm saying that correctly, and Raziel actually has a single has the bind recovery, so a row of hearts clears 3 turns of binds, bind immunity, and triple 2-prong. And a triple 2-prong allows her to actually have some offensive capabilities when combined with her high attack value, and the bind immunity recover bind gives some defensive utility. So there is value in this card, and Raziel actually has been seeing a lot more popularity just because of Ronnie teams. And Ronnie teams are heart cross leaders, so obviously the active helps because it spawns hard orbs, as well as covering the awkward fire-water typings. Now, the Halloween Raziel does not cover water, which is unfortunate, but you do cover fire, but means you will have to sacrifice some Coyotes or a Ragnarok Dragon. Probably not Ragnarok, or one of the two you have to sacrifice, basically, because she covers dark. You have to sacrifice someone for water. Like, you probably want to use maybe someone like Orochi, who actually has nice utility with the delay, but it's like, it's a good card for Ronnie teams, but not as good as the fire-water version. Unless you're obviously having a different team, you're diverging away from the optimal team, which is 2 Coyotes, Ragnarok Dragon, Raziel. However, still a powerful card, has a useful active, and the active can be inherited on top because it's only 5 turns. So you can inherit a more powerful or impactful active. And that's great because you may need more utility on your team, and she's a great base for it because she's also bind immune. So you can resist binds, you can clear binds, you can use board changes, shields, whatever you need for your team, she can do it, which is nice. So she is a powerful role, especially if you have Ronnie. Next is Mysterious Guest Layla, and Layla actually got updated to gain additional 2 Dark Rows, so she has 3 Dark Rows, which is quite powerful, and her active skill changes the bottom row to Dark on a 6-turn cooldown. Now, this active would have been so much better, and she would have had a lot more value if it changed the top row. I say this because whenever you're playing a row-based team and you're trying to conserve or hoard orbs, you always place them at the bottom because there's less chance that the bottom orbs are going to be triggered by Skyfalls or accidental matching because you can just kind of break them up at the bottom. It's not going to fall down any further, so on and so forth. And you basically, when you want to do damage, you form the row at the bottom and then go from there upwards. With Layla, you spawn the dark row on the bottom row. So where you're saving your orbs, you're going to remove them. So that defeats that whole purpose, and that's awkward, and it's inconveniencing. So that's not really good value at this point. Furthermore, Where else can you use this? Probably after a full board changer to try and correct it if it spawned really badly. However, you should be using a better combo like obviously a Haku Akachi or a Zuo a Zuo Pandora, like so on and so forth, like something that forms 2/3 dark, 1/3 something else. That's a much more powerful board changer combo than board changer Layla. So she's just in an awkward place. Has decent awakenings, and the active could have been better if it was the top row. It's just unfortunate. Like I don't know why they could have made it more valuable. They just could have done better. Next is the Moonlit Prowler Vampire Lord, and the Vampire Lord actually gained a second 2-prong and a God Killer awakening. But he still has the same Heart's Dark active, and that's the only problem. Like, the Claire, which is the Dark Valkyrie, is powerful, but has no value in a Heart Cross meta, so no matter how good your awakenings are, you're just not going to be that strong, because you take away the orbs you actually need. Like, he has the right Devil balance typing, so he can be used on all the good teams, but because he removes hearts, you can't use them. So it's like, ugh. If he changed a different orb to Dark, fantastic, he'd be a great sub, but he can't. And he used to be used actually in conjunction with Awoken Loki to form like a pseudo Norse Dragonbound pairing, but the Dragonbounds got buffs, Vampire Lord didn't to the leader skill, so not as good. It's just not worthwhile at this point. So he's kind of an awkward place. Like, I guess he's like really the only good male fan art I guess you could have, but it's not that great. Next is the Spirit of the Masquerade Alarane, and Alarane got some buffs. She now can clear binds of a row of hearts with a Recover Bind Awakening, as well as 2 time extensions. And she still is the same bind immune double skill lock resist card she always was, as well as giving 4 turns of bind clear for active and 1 turn of haste. So this is nice because a lot of bind clearing actives had no collateral benefit. They would just clear the binds, day's over, or turns over. At least with Alarane, she gives haste, so there's a bit of collateral benefit. It does help alleviate the burden of bringing a defensive active, because at least you hasten up your other actives. And in theory, if you have a 7-turn cooldown with other 7-turn cooldowns, you can use it to complete your system. You don't even need to use the bind clear, you just can complete the system. Pretty fancy. But the thing is, Alarane actually has value because she's one of the best Devil bind clearing subs available, because it's a short cooldown, you can inherit over top of it, and gives a lot of utility. However, she may see a lot of value on Halloween Shan Mei teams because A, you have the Recover Bind, so when you have all these hearts, you can clear your binds off other cards passively, you can complete the system, and you also have those 2 time extensions, which can be valuable because Shan Mei teams need to make a row and 3 heart combos. So that might require a lot of orb manipulation, and this can help alleviate that burden. So this is nice. Like, she's a pretty powerful card, and she can be used for inheritance even, because a 7-turn cooldown is not that difficult to inherit, as well as giving at least haste as the benefit. Pretty nice overall. Like, I think she's pretty powerful. One of the better roles in this whole collab. And next, we're into the 5-star realm of Chiyomi, and Chiyomi is basically a weaker version of the Rare Machine counterpart, because she has 1 less Killer Awakening, and her active is not unique anymore. Like, Chiyomi's active of Light to Fire was pretty unique. It allowed you to have combo potential with Leyland or Ilm boards to make full fire, or 2/3 fire for Leyland. But this Chiyomi competes with Pandora for Wood Orbs, and I struggle to find a scenario where you'd rather run Chiyomi over Pandora, because Pandora is just better. More awakenings, more base stats, a better active. Like, yes, Chiyomi has a Dragon Killer, so maybe situationally helpful, but that's so niche. So Pandora's better pretty much every single way, aside from like an 8 versus 5-turn cooldown. So awkward. Like, if she converted a more unique orb, say Water to Dark, that's more unique. That would actually be powerful, because you then now have combo synergy with Haku, which was Hanzo beforehand. So that would have been so much better. Why couldn't they do that? Why compete with Pandora? It's unfortunate. So Chiyomi's like, it's good, but Pandora's just better. Next is Parvati, and she rhymes with Parvati, which I say wrong all the time, but Parvati has triple poison resist, which has niche uses, a single 2-prong, and dual Killer Awakenings. Unfortunately, she is kind of a weaker version of the Awoken form. Yes, there's Killer Awakenings, but hear me out. Her active only changes Water to Hearts, whereas Awoken Parvati at least enhances the Wood and Heart Orbs, so there's a lot more value because it's a damage enhance. So that's probably dealing more damage for your team overall than the Killer Awakenings. But I guess you could use this Parvati as a base for skill inheritance just to benefit from the Killer Awakenings. Like, there may be scenarios where you want to have both Dragon Devil Killer Awakenings, so it could have potential on Mono Wood teams, but it's kind of awkward. It's okay, but it's too situational to really have enough value, in my opinion. So it's unfortunate, but her artwork is pretty great. I like her artwork. It's pretty spectacular. Finally, we're into the 4-star territory, and with any 4-star role from a collab, they only qualify for skill inheritance as an assistant if you are able to evolve them to a 5-star plus form. Unfortunately, with the Halloween collab, no one qualifies because none of them have an evolution tree, so you have to use them as a sub, and that can be problematic. However, that's not too problematic for Izanami, because Halloween Izanami is very similar to the wedding version. She has, obviously, the dark typing, and dark orb enhancement, and light damage resistance, which is the inverse of the wedding version. However, the Halloween Izanami has a worse active, because it's 35% damage reduction for a single turn on a 4-turn cooldown, instead of 35% for 3 turns on a 6-turn cooldown. So the active is weaker. Like, maybe you only need 1 turn of shielding, and that would actually save you. But it's usually better to have the 3 turns up and have an uptime of 50%, whereas here you have an uptime of 25%. Not so great. However, you still can use Halloween Izanami as a base for skill inheritance. She actually is a lot stronger as a base because 4-turn cooldown is easier to inherit on top of. So you can inherit stronger shield or whatever utility your team needs. And she gives a lot of passive damage. Unfortunately, her god balance typing kind of excludes her from the devil teams out there, as well as Heartcross leaders not needing damage reduction active, so she doesn't have as good of a home compared to Wedding Izanami, who is great on Awoken DQXQ. Halloween Izanami just doesn't have the same equivalent home. Like, it's kind of awkward. Like, it could have been better. Like, maybe on like a Plum team, but no one really runs Plum. Like, that balance could be used there, but not necessary. Gremory doesn't need it because of Heartcross, so on and so forth. I guess the main thing to look forward to is using her on the future Yomi Dragon team, like after they get the new evolution, because those are favorable awakenings. The shield is helpful because the team has no health multiplier, and you can inherit something on top of it. So obviously don't sell her, but just wait to see if Yomi Dragon has more value. Let's put it that way. Next, we come to Misery, and if you roll Misery, you probably would be kind of miserable, because she is like a weaker Hell. Like, for one, the poison meta never really took off. Like, it was kind of janky, it was kind of fun, it was novelty, but it didn't really take effect because it just wasn't efficient enough. And Misery is even worse than Hell because she has less offensive awakenings. Auto heal is cool, but with enough recovery from the 4 times recovery multiplier, it's unnecessary. And Hell at least had Awoken Haku and Zerag Infinity as, like, subs. Misery doesn't have those equivalents. Like, you can't use Mei Mei, obviously. You could use Sylvie, I guess. But the thing is, when you spawn the poison orbs on a top row, yes, you get your activation guaranteed, but you don't get the Skyfall benefit, so you may not be able to activate every turn anymore, because you only can activate 2 out of 5 turns because of dual leaders. Kind of awkward. Like, you could use Lynthias, but Lynthias may not spawn enough poison orbs. So Misery just doesn't have subs that can support her like Hell does, and she's just weaker in general, like worse stats, worse awakenings. Worse active, in my opinion. So I'd be miserable if I rolled her, and I feel bad if you rolled lots of her, which may happen because it is a Silver Star egg. Finally, next we come to Mulan, and Mulan is a farmable monster who no one really knows about. She does 10 times dark damage to all enemies, which is insufficient for push buttoning, and she does 3 turns of bind clear. So Mulan is basically a very budget bind clearing option. Like, you have bind immunity and 3 skill boosts, and you have a 3-turn bind clear on a 7-turn cooldown. Not that great. Ronnie is way better by comparison, because you have the haste instead of like the dinky little attack. So Mulan, not much value. It's just really a bind clear, but you don't really need without the god or devil typing, you can't use her on those teams, like Lucifer, so that's kind of out of the question. And Gremory, who uses the balance, does not need a bind clear, so it's just awkward. It's an awkward card in general. Next is Undine, and Undine has 3 enhanced heal and 5 enhanced water orb awakenings. So those are really good awakenings. The problem is, it's still Undine. Like, you still have Undines active. You void fire damage for 3 turns, which is so situationally useful. Like, we don't have a dungeon equivalent like Machine, Zeus, Hera, Athena. A Machine, Zeus, Machine, Hera, Machine, Athena. Like, there's no equivalent for fire yet. Maybe there will be, so Undine may have value there, but we don't need this fire reduction or fire damage void at this point in time. Maybe in the future we could, but the problem with Undine, this Halloween Undine, is you can't inherit her because it's a 4-star. It doesn't evolve. So you have to use this Undine as a sub. So unless you're playing a water team, it's gonna have no value. So it's just awkward. Like, and we don't even have a dungeon that's needed for it. So it's just a card you may get a use out of for a water team in the distant future. Kind of all it is. By comparison, the other Undine can at least be inherited. I guess you could use Halloween Undine on a water team if you are kind of desperate for an enhancing sub. At least you do get the water orb enhancement, and with all the hearts and water orbs already present, you actually have quite a bit of passive damage. And last, and certainly, well, kind of least, is Thoth and Sopdet. So Thoth and Sopdet was part of the original Halloween collab, and they have interesting awakenings. Like, they have a 2-prong, 2 dark enhances, 20% passive dark damage reduction, but they still have this weak active of 1-turn mass attack and water to hearts. Do you need that? Not really. Like, maybe if you're desperate on heart cross leaders, you could use it, but there are better options. I'd rather use an active that generates dark and hearts, because if you make a heart cross with no damage, you didn't really solve anything. And Thoth and Sopdet's leader skill, it allows you to have 5 more seconds to move orbs, and dual Thoth Sopdet is 10 more seconds. And that was actually used when no awakening dungeons were hard, because you had no time extent and you need to make various combos, and this was a great way to overcome it, or S-ranking Tamadra dungeons. I guess, unfortunately, there's even power creep in this realm because Miru exists, and Miru gives 2 more seconds to move orbs, and it's way better kit, synergy, leader skill, everything's better in general about Miru. So Thoth and Sopdet's uses are even more diminished. Like, it's so niche, like, you don't really need it anymore. People don't really even need it. You don't really need it, to be honest, so it's just kind of like, eh. And to be fair, no one likes Sopdet, especially in Arena. So, in conclusion, like, the Halloween Rare Machine does feature a lot of cards. Like, there are a lot of cards here, but not all of them are that valuable, and they're not as meta-influencing as, say, the Summer or the Wedding collab, because the Summer Wedding collab had cards that were really key to certain teams. Whereas the Halloween one, like, it doesn't really have anyone like that critical. Like, Sonya Grant is good, Shan Mei is good, so there's good value at the very, very top. There's very good value in Ronnie, and Raziel, I guess, if you use Ronnie, but elsewhere, the value is not really here. Like, you could still roll, like, it is reasonable, but, like, it's not as strong of a silver collection as the Beach or Wedding, and at least the top is strong, but obviously rolling for the top can be challenging. So it is still a reasonable collab. Like, you are going to get at least festively dressed cards. There's no filler, which is nice, but you have to be prepared that the silver eggs are not as monumental by comparison. So let me know if you are actually going to roll in this collab. Like, how many stones have you saved up? How many do you plan to roll? And what are you looking to get? Like, who do you want to help complete your teams? Like, what is the key card that you're searching for? So let me know in the comments below. This full article will be in the description of my YouTube video, so check it out, because I obviously glossed over a lot of things. So thank you very much for watching. Have a mantastic day, and happy puzzling!